Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Ask Jesse Answer Time. Let's get right to it. Number one comes to us from Angie Moore. And Angie asks, the one thing I want in this life is to find someone to share it with. I want to live a life for me. Finding my one person may not be in the cards for me. How can I let that dream go? Or at least not ruin it run my life and really start living a life for me? And on limited resources, I don't have money, so I can't travel. Most of what I do, I'll have to do alone. Most of the time, I just want to sleep, so I don't have to face my reality. But I need to change. The better part of the past decade have brought one heartache and disappointment after another. It's time to end that, and I'd love your advice. Angie, here's the challenge. When you're focusing on all the things you want, or all the things you don't want, you're going to likely get more of those. It's the classic example is what you think about is what you're going to bring about. Have you ever noticed when you're driving through town and you see that car that you haven't, some kind of rare car that you haven't seen before, or unique color, and you think to yourself, wow, I've never seen a car like that. And then all of a sudden the next day you see, or next couple of days you see two or three of the same kind of cars or colors or whatever it is. The reason is when we put our attention into something like that, our brain's going to find more of it. It's kind of like tuning into the news and you hear some story about something horrible happening, and then you go around and you find all the evidence to support that, right? So if we're always focusing on what we can't do, oh, I can't travel because I don't have money. I don't have money. I'm one failed relationship after the other. It's always been heartache. We're always going to find resources and evidence to support that. You said the last decade's been nothing but heartache, but my challenge to you would be this: is you're telling me that in the entire last decade, and what is there? There's 168 hours in a week. There's, gosh, what does that make? 1,000? I don't even know the math. That's like 60,000 hours or something like that in the last 10 years or more. And you're going to tell me every single one of those 60,000 hours was heartache? I'd have to respectfully say bull. That there's likely been some really positive things in there. It's just you're not allowing yourself to see them because you're focusing on the heartache. With travel, we may not be able to have the money to jump in the car and drive across country or travel around the world, but I bet you have the resources to just travel down the street, to become a tourist in your own town. Find little nooks and crannies you've never seen before. I can tell you when I did the 1 year 1,000 challenge, the majority of my travel time was spent in the local area. And it was amazing. I found so many cool things that I'd never seen before or experienced before. It is in my own backyard. So my challenge to you is this: is you got to shift your focus. Focus on what you want versus what you don't want, and start finding ways and reasons of how you can do things. How can you travel? If you want to travel, how can you travel? How can you travel locally? How can you travel further than locally? Again, if you always are going to find reasons of how you can't do it, you'll always make it not happen. But I promise you this: if you start to train your brain, and your brain's going to be just like any other muscle, you have to work it consistently, you'll be able to start to find ways to make it possible. Okay? Great question. Question number two comes to us from Faith Lines, and Faith asks, with the new year on the horizon and people making resolutions and goals for 2016, what is some useful tips for keeping and staying on track with accomplishing those goals successfully? I know for me, Zero Limits Mastermind has helped me with this, but not everyone will invest in themselves like that. So what do you suggest, Jesse? Great question, Faith. And the answer is you have to be willing to invest in yourself. Whether you're investing in yourself in a program like the Zero Limits Mastermind, or you're getting a book, or you're taking time to fill out a journal, you have to be willing to make some sort of investment. And the investment doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. It can just be your time, your commitment, your focus, your attention, your emotional energy, whatever it is. You got to be willing to focus on that. You have to be willing to make that investment of yourself. So if you want to accomplish something, the most important thing is again, first you got to set a goal, and then you got to be willing to invest in that goal. A monetary commitment is a big one, because I think it's the proverbial, you got to put some skin in the game. A lot of us will have that scarcity mindset, and once you take your precious resources and decide, you know what, I understand money's tough, and money's been tough for the last however many years and nothing's changed. So maybe if I take what little money I have and put it into something to progress myself, better myself, things might change. It changes things. You have to hold yourself to a more massive level of accountability, because all of a sudden there's not the screw around room. If we don't change anything and we always use the money as an excuse, guess what? We've ridden that ride over and over. We know exactly how that's going to play out, and we know what we need to do to play it out so that what's the expression? There's never enough budget at the end of the month, right? There's never enough funds at the end of the month. Well, we can make that work. We definitely can. And if you don't want to make a financial investment, you got to be willing to make a time investment. I recently watched an interview where the person was an expert on accelerated learning, and he was saying that the big key to doing it is You have to be willing to commit a portion of time. And he does 20 minutes at the end of the day, 20 minutes at the beginning of the day. And he said, same thing. Most people don't succeed because they're not willing to make that investment in themselves. They're not willing to invest just 20 minutes of their time at the end of the day and the beginning of the day. And that's the truth. Most people aren't. Most people would rather sit around and come up with excuse after excuse after excuse as to why. You got to be willing to put some skin in the game, whether it's your time, it's your energy, it's your money, it's your emotion, whatever it is. I personally recommend both, because the more you put into something, the more you put of yourself out there, the more you're going to put yourself in a position where it's becoming a must. If it's just kind of this, I should, that's like saying, I shouldn't have that cookie, but boy, it sure looks really good. And then we end up having 8 of them. Okay, so you got to put some skin in the game. You got to be willing to make the investment, where it's your time, energy, or resource. So decide what you want, focus on it, and take some actions to commit to making it so. We have time for one more fun one, and Jessica Dayhoff, I apologize if I mispronounced your last name, asked a couple fun questions. And the one that pops up is, have you ever lied to a cop? And my response to that is, I wish to assert my Fifth Amendment privileges. All right, everybody, I hope you found value in this. I would love to read your comments. Please leave one below. If you found value in this and you think somebody else would, definitely share it to them. I apologize if I'm squinting. I'm kind of staring into the sun. And I look forward to doing this again next week. I put the posts up every Friday to ask questions. I always answer it on Mondays, okay? We'll see you then. Have an awesome week and take care. Bye-bye.